I wore the same clothes for 56 days before someone finally said something. What amateur psychology experiments have you done? As an Aussie, I say how ya going a lot. I worked at a petrol station, and it quickly became my greeting to customers. Every person who walked in, how ya going, mate, how ya going, mate to every person. I got bored one day, and because Aussies are the laziest speakers on earth, the Melbourne Cricket Ground is shortened to the MCG, and even then we shorten that to the G because those extra 2 letters require too much effort to say. I decided to test the extent of this laziness. Every time someone would come in, I'd shorten how ya going just a little bit, starting with how ya going, mate, then how ya ga, mate. Then eventually it got to the point where all I was saying was a YG. May I would pronounce each letter phonetically, so it sounded like a yaga may. Every single person understood me without the slightest difficulty. While reading your post alone in my room, I must have pronounced that phrase 15 times. It's 10:34 on a Friday night. What the heck have I done with my life? I gave a 30-question science test that was multiple choice. I put a period at the end of each of the correct answers. No one noticed. After I gave the class the test back, I asked if anyone noticed, and I assured them that I wasn't going to do it again. No one said that they noticed. Sneaky. Sometimes when I'm talking to someone who is mirroring my body language, I'll start standing or sitting in awkward positions just to see if they do it too. When it works, it's kind of funny. I discovered that if you make eye contact with a stranger when you're both walking towards each other, and you raise your hand when you're about 3 seconds from passing them, fully 4 out of 5 people will high-five you. It makes my day every time I do it. That no one will ever see, so why am I even bothering? I mean, really. I tested this last weekend at the Calgary Stampede. I went 7 for 6. Someone did it to me on the train ride home. Once a girl with a clipboard propositioned me for a high five. After the high five was exchanged, she tallied it and moved on. I felt used. In high school, my friend created a person. We would bring his name up in casual conversations, plan parties at his house, started a rivalry between him and another kid. Enough of us were in on it that it spread like crazy. We even had a few teachers mention his name. We kept everything vague enough no one knew too much, but they knew his name and believed he was real. A few years ago, one of the guys made him a Facebook. He has lots of friends. This was apparently a popular thing to do. The friend who created him named him Mike Casino. It was in Missouri. I once went a week without answering anyone's questions, basically playing the psychologist and turning it around to a question for the asker. My wife finally caught on after 5 days, but enjoyed the heck out of getting to essentially give me the opportunity and then make every decision the way she wanted to. Co-workers never seemed to pick up on it, and it wasn't too bad. Made 2 dating profiles. My polar opposite received non-stop emails, while I got one throughout the whole experiment. I have long since deleted both accounts. My alter ego was more or less a good old boy with some bloke from Google Images for the profile pic. I coached at a sports camp the summer I graduated college. One day, I wore a collared polo shirt inside out, and, for a reason I still do not quite know, decided to wear an inside-out polo shirt every day for the rest of the summer. By the end of the camp, every single kid, fairly sophisticated private school boys, 16-18 years old, were all wearing their shirts inside out, and would actually go out of their way to gently correct anyone who mistakenly wore their shirt right side in. It was then that I learned that teenage boys are weird. I saw Katie Heron wearing army pants and flip-flops, so I wore army pants and flip-flops. One day I decided not to talk to anyone the entire day in school. Normally I'm talkative as heck, and pretty social with people. When people would talk to me, I would laugh and respond physically and acknowledge their presence, but not say a word. It took people until almost the end of the day to notice, and there were several people that claimed I had talked to them, had conversations with them during the day. I noticed that if you simply look another person in the eyes and make gestures, they will think of it as participation in the conversation. Also, I noticed that I had so much more time to think and prevent myself from saying stupid crap to people that pee them off. It was pretty interesting. I do this whenever I don't feel like holding a conversation with someone. Good to know it works. to see how adults would react to a Santa situation. When I was about 10, I bought everyone in my family 2 presents for Christmas. I also bought separate wrapping paper and practiced wrapping perfectly. After my father went to bed on Christmas Eve, I went downstairs and put the second set of presents under the tree. They were labeled from SE, which was printed so handwriting couldn't be analyzed. I was curious as to whether an adult could actually believe it, as I knew they wouldn't really suspect me or my brother. After the initial shock, it was deduced that our neighbors had let themselves in at night and planted them there. The neighbors' initials were S and C. Sometimes in school, teachers would hand out a stack of paper and everyone in the class would take a page and pass the stack to the next person. One day I picked up the tape dispenser from the teacher's desk, tore off a strip of tape and passed it on to the next person. The tape went all the way around the classroom and everyone had a piece of tape stuck to their desk. One of the kids finally asked the teacher what the tape was for and she had no idea what they were talking about. I chuckled to myself because people can become conditioned to do the stupidest things for no reason. I like to wear makeup to work some days and no makeup on other days and see how people treat me. It's not a very good experiment because there is no control and there are a lot of outside factors that could affect people's behavior, but I think I'm onto something. People always tell me I look sick. At one point I had 30 baby crocodiles in my living room separated into 3 kiddie swimming pools from Walmart. I ran a rescue in the pet trade. These things happen. I ran out of their food, goldfish, and only had cold cuts around meat-wise until the morning. I threw a piece of bologna into one pool, and all of the crocs just sat there, half submerged, staring at me. Nobody went for it. I threw a piece into the second pool. Again, nobody was amused with my sandwich meat. Then I got to the third pool, where one particular croc had become my friend. He was missing both of his front hands when I got the 30, so I had taken to personally feeding him and making sure he didn't have to compete with the others. When I threw in the scrap of bologna, only Stumps went for it, but as soon as he took a bite, the other 9 immediately clicked in and swam in for a snack. I then took one croc from pool 3 and dropped him into the other 2 pools, and each time he taught the others to eat bologna by going for the pieces casually lying around. Basically taught 3 different communities of crocodile about a new food source by transferring one individual to spread the cultural change. Just so people are aware, crocodiles need a lot of space, more than just kiddie pools, though these were just wee little guys, so they had plenty of room. They were shipped out within 48 hours, just had to confirm they were healthy and eating before passing them on. I once spent 2 months on this one. Whenever I would walk around in public, I would refuse to step aside or move over for others walking from the other direction. For example, walking down a grocery aisle on the right hand side. Approaching from the other direction was a group of 3 people walking side by side. I would hold my ground instead of moving further over to the right, forcing one of them to move over. I would not do this to older people, just 50s or younger. I found that teenage to mid-20s girls were the worst ones about not moving over, and they would plow right into me, then be that I should have moved over. I'm 40 by the way. I was surprised that teen to 20 something guys tended to move over but 30s to 40s men didn't. I would only do it when I approached groups of 2 or more walking side by side, and I never took up more than the right half of any aisle. It was really interesting. A fun trick for walking through crowds is to just look past people and nod at them, not making eye contact. If you're walking towards a line of 3 people looking forward between their head shoulders, they will move and let you through. Seriously, try it. I do it all the time walking from class to class on campus, and I feel like Neo on the streets of New York. I don't know how you do it. I start getting comments when I wear the same shirt a week later. Changed everything in my online dating profile to sardonic, bitter, creepy crap. Got more responses than ever while living in a major tourist destination. Learned that acting like a tourist made people treat me far more nicely as a waitress. Learned that subtly negging one guy at a table of men got me higher tips than being nice to all of them. With my roommate, tried going on cleaning strike to get her to clean more. Didn't work. That roommate one made me laugh a bit. I tried the same thing. Crap just got gross. That waitress thing is interesting. I would have thought the opposite true. I sing or hum annoying songs around people during different times of the day. My goal is to have them singing or humming the song by the end of the day. I have the best results when I sing. I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. It's awesome cause no one knows the whole song, so they only sing that one piece. I forgot to mention that I sing as though I'm singing to myself. Loud enough for them to hear, but not loud enough as though to make think I don't want them to hear me singing. Just caught myself singing this and sure enough, I don't know any more of the song than that. Dang you. I used to work at Starbucks, and we were supposed to greet people starting with, "Welcome to Starbucks." When I was in the drive-thru, I replaced Starbucks with Stardust and Star Wars to see how long it took for someone to notice. Sometimes I would even say Wendy's. Then I started replacing my name with things like Coolio and Turd Ferguson. The first person to say something got their order free. I usually only got 1 or 2 responses per 8-hour shift. People care so little about anything you say to them and just want their coffee. So the only people who ever caught on were the regulars who listened carefully to hear who they were talking to. Everyone else ignored you completely and just waited for you to stop talking so they could spit out their order. When you add a question at the end, they always assume that you're trying to get them to buy something extra. "Would you like to try our new X drink today?" So lots of people missed out when I actually said, "Would you like to try a free drink today?" Also, cinnamon swirl coffee cakes became cinnamon squirrel coffee cakes, and during winter time caramel brulee lattes became Michael Bublé lattes. I think there were more, but I've blocked out most of the memories. I become a SAP at drive-thrus and usually can't understand what they are saying, so I try to make them say no more than is necessary because I don't want them to have to repeat themselves over and over for something trivial. When I worked at Staples selling printers and advising people on technology and crap, I used to experiment with wearing glasses or contacts. When I was wearing glasses, people were not as nice to me, would frequently think I was making stuff up, and were less likely to buy the service plans I was supposed to be selling. Initially I thought it was because it was harder to see my eyes and people were less trusting because of that. But now I'm pretty sure it's just that I am better looking in contacts and people innately trust and like dealing with more attractive people. I'm a dude and I wouldn't consider myself particularly attractive or anything, and I think the change was entirely subconscious for the customers. When I was in classes, I noticed I'd get called on more frequently and have more people try to work with me if my hair was up and I wore my glasses, but I'd get better tips if I wore my hair down and no glasses as a hostess. Not that I really expected tips as a hostess, it was just something I noticed. My experiment was called the traveling mole. I basically drew a bigger mole in a different area on my face every day. The mole started out really tiny and on one part of my face. Every morning, I would make the mole a little bit bigger and moved it slightly from where it was the previous day. I did this for 3 months. No one had the balls to comment on it, or no one cared. I accidentally got given an extra 10 quid with my change at a supermarket and gave it back to the chap serving me. I decided to see how long I could keep this good deed to myself rather than telling someone. 3 days. I did this exact experiment with myself. I gave $20 to a homeless man just to see if I could keep the secret and not brag about it. Still haven't told anyone. I'm so righteous. I used to sit outside of a classroom in HS before class started, regardless of whether or not the door was locked, just to see if anyone would even try to go inside. Entire class stood outside for no reason, twice. I decided to change my birthday once a month on Facebook to another day just to see how many people wish you happy birthday simply because Facebook tells you to. It took almost 7 months before somebody realized what I was doing and would get 30 plus well wishes per birthday. People don't even do so on my real birthday. Hey guys, Stinky Dave is wearing the same thing again. I feel we should say something. He's really driving the customers away. No, we can't. It's like waking up someone who's sleepwalking. If you do it, there'll be brain damage or something. With the few customers we're getting nowadays, we can't afford to pay up if he sues us. When having a conversation with someone, stare directly at their forehead. They will freak out. Apply directly to the forehead. This was a hoot. I did it a few years back in high school. Just for fun, me and my friends decided to try a social experiment where we can make people see something that doesn't exist based on peer pressure. This is what we did. My friend walked into the middle of school grounds and looked into the sky. He acted like he was looking at something in the clouds that was hovering and spinning. I came along and asked what he's looking at. He said out loud that there was something in the sky. He pointed and I acted like I saw it. Then another friend came and did the same. There were 5 of us looking at the imaginary object before complete strangers started crowding around looking. We found it incredibly hilarious that they agreed that they saw it. When we had a mini crowd, we decided to sneak away. 20 minutes later we come back and there was an even larger crowd looking at the UFO. I asked someone and they were like, "There's something flying in the sky. Can't you see it? It's right there." We shared a great laugh and learned a funny lesson about our minds and peer pressure. It's all fun and games until someone establishes a church. At parties, I used to go in the bathroom and flip the toilet paper over. Then I'd go back an hour later and someone would always have flipped back. People are serious about the way the TP is hung. You monster. They knew but were polite enough not to say anything. Yeah, I asked her about it a few days afterward and she didn't seem to recall. Maybe I'll ask again today and see what she says. I wore a name tag for an entire year in college. No real reason. I just wanted to see what would happen. The next logical step in this is to wear a name tag. Then after people get used to it, change the name tag and see how many people refer to you by your new name. Then gauge the difference in relationships between people who continue to use your original name versus the people who use the new name. I used to sit in a different spot every day in class while everyone else settled into a regular seat by the end of the first week. Lesson: some people are so rigid. As punishment for being insubordinate at my private, parochial boarding school, I was required to paint all of the rooms in the girls' dorm, somewhere after the 4th room, but long before the 35th. I contrived that it would be great to paint subliminal messages into the walls of some rooms, and throughout the following school year would carefully watch the behavior of the room residents to see whether they were being influenced by the words I had so cleverly hidden underneath the top layer of paint. Unfortunately, my plan was nipped in the bud when the school maintenance worker checked on my progress and saw one of the words I hadn't painted over yet. What's worse than having the greatest plan ever foiled? Being forced to repaint 35 dorm rooms. 35 dorm rooms. That sounds painful. Fresh out of high school and into my first college class, English. This was an entry-level class full of people who don't really want to be there, me included. During the very first class we had to do the get to know ya group intro crap. I decided that I wasn't going to do it. When it came to be my turn to share a little about myself, I wrote on a note that I had in fact taken a vow of silence. I handed this note to a student next to me. She read it aloud, and I got the shittiest looks from the other students, but the look of wonder on my teacher's face told me that I had to keep it going. I kept silent the whole semester. I didn't read aloud. I didn't answer any questions. Nothing. And the teacher loved it. She ate it all up. She thought it was a profound step in my development as an adult. I made a Facebook account with my friend, got 100 random friends, got to loosely know something about each of them and then started being an butthole to everyone to see how long it took to get down to 0 friends. 3 months 13 days. We did a similar thing. A friend of mine and I in high school made a fake Facebook account solely for the purpose of seeing who would friend a complete stranger. It got a lot of messages from people asking who it was. A former friend had a tendency to overstate how inebriated she was. One day, my boyfriend and I decided to make her a drink that was a mixture of Coke, vitamin water, ect, and tell her it was wine. She acted slightly more silly, so we didn't think it worked very well. However, the next day another friend came up to me. She says, "Wow, what were you and FDJGRJT up to last night?" She told me she got so hammered at your house. Conclusion: BB trippin'. I am amazed that someone could believe that a mix of Coke and anything could possibly be wine. I have a friend whom I don't really like and have been trying to defriend for about 3 months now, and I noticed one day that anytime the topic of conversation switches away from her she stops paying attention and her eyes glaze over. So I decided I'd run a small experiment with her to find out if she really gave a crap about me and what's happening in my life. The first time I saw her every day, and I did see her most days, I would say the exact same thing to her. Hello, how are you today? Now most people would respond with not too bad, how are you, or something of the sort. I knew she wouldn't say that because she was too wrapped up in herself. So I tested to see how long it took her to finally ask how I was doing. Just shy of 2 months later and the experiment is still running. Isn't narcissism wonderful? I did what I call the elevator experience. Notice how, when you get into an elevator and there is other people, or when someone gets in the elevator with you, everybody adapts. You try to make a regular shape, putting as much distance between you and everyone else as you can, without even thinking about it. 2 people try to make a diagonal like, 3 an equilateral triangle, 4 people do a square, and from 5 and up it gets uncomfortable, right? So I decided that, instead of doing that, I'd stay in the middle, always. It was so much funnier than I thought it would be. People would get so confused, like they just entered freaking Narnia or something. Almost everyone would try and put themselves as far as they could from me. I don't stink, as far as I know. Some would have an angry or even condescending attitude towards me. Some would enter the elevator as if they were expecting the walls would be covered in spikes or something. Only about 1 person in 20 wouldn't give a dang about me. Try it. Ease in shows how much our culture is flawed. People prefer seeing 2 people arguing in an opposite corner of the elevator than having to stand too near to someone doing nothing. The first phase of your experiment is complete. Now, for the second. Scrounge as much money as possible over a week period and use the funds to buy as much radically different SFW attire as possible. Over the course of the next 56 days, start wearing the new clothing while still greeting all of your co-workers as per your usual daily routine. After the first week, start changing your clothes during lunch every other day. A month into the second phase and you should be changing clothes 4-5 times a day. Try to be as discreet as possible. At around the 7th-8th week, you should be changing clothing around 10-15 times a day, and your co-workers will undoubtedly be stirring in anticipation to see what you do next. After the second 112th day, wear nothing. Or, pick up a hobby. I remember a few months ago in school, a few friends and I devised a scheme to get one of our teachers to go home sick. At various times of the day, one of us would pass the teacher in the corridor and ask her if she felt okay. When she replied affirmatively, the person would say, you don't look the best, or something to that effect. We coordinated it so that the idea was planted in her mind, but we were subtle enough to ensure she didn't realize our plan. Anyway, by the time we were scheduled to have her for class, she never showed and had gone home sick. What had started off as an unrealistic ambition had come to fruition. It's amazing how easily you can alter someone's thoughts through the power of suggestion. To this day, if I ever claim sickness to get out of something, I invariably feel sick throughout that day. I've done essentially the same clothing experiment. However, mine is going on 6 or 7 years now. I have 2 basic sets of wardrobe. Set 1, 8 black slacks, 5 blue short sleeve polo shirts. Set 2, 4 Levi 527 blue jeans. Used to be 501s, but I found that I like the 527s more, so I have bought them as needed to replace the 501s. 10 Hanes grey t-shirts, slim fitted. I also have 2 sweaters that I can wear over any of the above shirts in case it's cold out. It's a fairly mild climate where I live. While I do have a few unique items, a grey pair of slacks, 2 pair of shorts, which are identical to each other, a couple different colored polos, and I do own a suit with a nice button-down shirt. In my wardrobe, my closet essentially looks like Ernest P. Worrell's closet would. I have 4 pairs of shoes, black dress shoes, light-colored sneakers, hiking boots, cross-trainer running shoes. For the bulk of my career, I've worn the exact same outfits to the office. Black slacks, blue polo, with the dress shoes. When I'm off work, I wear grey t-shirts and blue jeans. Typically, I wear the dress shoes for nearly every occasion. I look sharp with the t-shirt, jeans, and nice shoes. A few people have pointed out that I am always dressed the same, but most people don't notice it or don't mention it. I think the person who was the most shocked was my wife. When we met, she thought that I had one outfit of each of the types listed above and just did laundry all the time, or somehow wore the same clothes without smelling bad. It wasn't until she saw my closet, which was a couple months into our relationship, that she realized that I had so many of the exact same articles of clothing. Why I do this is so that I never have to worry about coordinating clothing, never have to think about what to wear, and I have a really easy time doing laundry. I have no idea if I've benefited in any way from simplifying this aspect of my life. I suppose I've probably saved a lot of time, but I'm not sure if I've used it for anything better than what someone who spends twice as much time or more figuring out what to wear. One bonus: restaurants seem to recognize me as a regular really quickly, so I tend to get great service at the lunch spots near my office, even if I skip going to them for weeks at a time, since I always look exactly like I did when I was just there the other day. To see if not cleaning would cause roommates to clean. Nope. To see if not picking up after my co-workers would cause crap to fall apart. It did. I looked great and put a lot of fires out that weekend. To see if I could condition my cats to go outside on the balcony on their own free will by taking them outside but holding on to them, and when they wanted to get down to explore, taking them back in. Worked perfectly. I am on a dating site with 2 profiles. One with the actual me, photo of me and everything. Second profile is me, but different photo, also male. Some sports student I know who looks good, in my opinion, as a man. First of all, the second profile gets much more males from women, about 2-3 a day, while the real me gets about 1 per month. Then I started the experiment where I logged in with both of the accounts. I start a conversation with a woman with both profiles. The real me only gets short answers, nearly no attention, and never gets anything asked. The second profile, the women actually talking really well, asking questions, answering in whole sentences and so on. For your information, I always say the truth to them on both accounts. When the same question comes, I answer the same. When it comes to the topic what I am doing for a living and I say that I study physics and still living with my parents, the reactions from the women differ so much. On the one account they say it doesn't matter and they are fine with it. The same woman say that I am using, is this the right word, my parents, and how can you study physics, OMG. Ouch, right in the self-esteem. I don't think I have the ability to handle that, and physics is awesome. Crap, anytime I try and wear the same jeans 2 days in a row my wife throws a fit. When I walk out of a building I like to stare up at the top and see if anyone else does so. Also, get into an elevator that's full of people and put your back to the door. Enjoy. Hit the up arrow on the elevator and say, time to take this party to the next level. I'm a girl that holds the door open for men. I keep a mental tally of how many allow it and how many awkwardly try to let me in first. I asked multiple grade levels from grade 9 to grade 12 when is the best time to wear a striped sweater to see if the answer all the time, SpongeBob, would vary with their ages. OP delivers. The answer all the time was definitely very prominent in grades 11 and 12, moderately dominant in grade 10, but definitely sparser than grades 11 and 12, and grade 9 came in last with the least often answer of all the time. Any more questions, students? I am military, so I wear the same uniform every day. Anyway, speaking of military, there was this Ashat sergeant who was retiring soon who was insanely socially awkward. I was also mildly awkward, so he gravitated to me and would often do stupid childish crap to me like what's that on your shirt, me looks down, him, bops nose, WTF, or just generally frick with me in the most childish ways. Mind you, he is in his late 30s. Like I said, he is retiring soon. He is high ranking and has quite a lot to do. ThinkGeek.com has these things called anoitrons, which are little circuit cards that have a couple switches, a battery, magnet, and a speaker. The only function of these devices is to beep randomly. You hide it and annoy people. Fast forward a couple days, this guy is going nuts in his office not knowing where this high-pitched beeping is coming from. I walk into his office and it is scattered everywhere. All the computers were unplugged, everything was out of the desk drawers, and I ask him what's going on. He explains about the beeping and I take this chance. I ask him maybe that is it, points to his chest. Him looks down, me beep, pokes his face. SHHH. Like this video, but quietly so you don't wake up the sleeping papa. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.